Hello, and welcome to the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway podcast. That's right. Your host and tour guide is Scott Prevett, a healer, hypnotist, and a magician. And your bus driver is Jason Gobelli, also a hypnotist, an entrepreneur, and a spiritual guide. Disclaimer, neither Jason, Scott, or any of our guests here today are licensed professional psychologists or psychiatrists. So please don't make any changes to any medication or treatments that you are currently on based on the conversation that you hear here today. Just hop on the bus and enjoy the ride. Trip with us on the Inner Revelation bus. That's right.
Hey, welcome back to the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway. I'm Jason, and man, we are excited today. We got a great guest, don't we, Scott?
Heck yeah, we're ready for this trip,
James
so to speak.
Tripp. That's right. We got the great James Tripp. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
So let's get started right away. Who are you and what do you do?
Well, I'm just this guy, really. Professionally, I'm a change work practitioner. That's what I consider myself to be, first and foremost, I suppose. I also do some coaching, what I might call generative coaching, which is similar but slightly different from change work. But my kind of background in this area professionally is in neurolinguistics and hypnosis. So once upon a time, I was a hypnotherapist. That was what I billed myself as. And so I've had a lot of involvement with hypnosis. I did a lot of street hypnosis back in the sort of late 2000s. And I've ended up being known around the world, I think, for the stuff that unfolded from that, which was a particular approach to hypnosis, which I called Hypnosis Without Trance at the time, to try and just put a handle on it, basically, and just go, look, here's a thing. And that's kind of a double-edged sword now that I've called it Hypnosis Without Trance. That means I get into a lot of debates I'd prefer not to have to get into, but it's what it is. Yeah.
So we're traveling down your magical psyche highway today. So why don't you explain the difference between a hypnotherapist and a change work practitioner?
All right. So the reason that I don't bill myself as a hypnotherapist is because, formally speaking, most of the time these days, in the areas where I'm working, I'm not really using explicit hypnosis or anything like that. So I'm not doing trance inductions. I'm not inviting people to, close their eyes or anything. It's very interactive. It's very interactional. I will do some immersive processes sometimes, but they are very rarely framed as hypnosis. But the reason I would say also change work rather than therapy is because the way I work with people is towards like, what do you want? Let's create that. Not what's your problem? Let's diagnose it and come up with the right solution to fix it. So I'm very kind of generative, outcome focused. It doesn't mean that I'm not problem phobic. I'm not going, no, we mustn't talk about your problem or anything like that. But I'm not problem philic either. I don't love going, right, let's get to the bottom of your problem and find out whether it's your wounded inner child or any of this stuff. So it's much more generative, much more kind of outcome focused. What do you want to create? Connecting people to their resources, having things unfold. To me, I'm doing it mostly conversationally, but it's still hypnotic because it's inviting people into a new way of being and a new way of seeing. So they kind of go there. I mean, you will probably align yourself with this, but I believe that we create as we think and as we speak. We create our experience as we think and we speak. We're not merely describing our reality. When we describe it, we're creating it, we're recreating it or changing the direction. So to me, there's a sort of dialogic process that happens. I'm thinking very hypnotically, so I'm listening for the things that sound like resources. I'm feeding them back. I'm kind of glowing them up using my hypnotic language. You could call it conversational hypnosis, but it's not framed that way, so I don't bill myself as a hypnotherapist. That would be what I would say the difference is.
So what inside you calls that shift?
What, inside of the client or inside of me?
Inside of you, when you decided that you were no longer going to be a hypnotherapist,
Oh,
made the shift.
really?
What inside you?
Right. That's a good question. I tell you, I'm just trying to remember the answer because it's historical in a sense, you know. One of the big things that led me to make that shift is I hired a guy called Steve Chandler as a coach to me, right? And I kind of hired him for business development reasons and this sort of thing, as much as anything. I think we human beings, we're always trying to find our path. We're trying to create our path through life, right? So it's like, right, what's next? What's next? So I hired this guy, Steve Chandler. And Steve was he was a wizard. I mean, he blew my mind. He was so impactful and so life-changing. And he just had ways of using language. He was not hypnosis trained. This is the thing. He was a coach, but he was not hypnosis trained. He was not NLP trained, had a completely different background from me. But I remember once, I said this to him recently, and he was a bit embarrassed that he'd said it, but I'm going to repeat it anyway. He said to me once, he said, James, I'm like Merlin. I change people with my words. And he does, right? He changed me. And I thought, like, I love what this guy does. I love it. And I want to do more of this. So I got a lot of change. I learned a lot from Steve. And Steve built himself as a coach. So I switched from being a hypnotherapist to being a coach. However, and that's got a slightly different focus. And in my sort of, my professional work, like where I promote myself, I was a coach for a few years. But then an old friend of mine who I'd known for a long time, he'd founded an organization called Rock to Recovery, which is called Rock to Recovery UK, because I think there's a US organization called Rock to Recovery as well, which does something completely different. And he was working with armed forces veterans, helping them to, a lot of the time, saving their lives, because a lot of them were like in very dark places, suicidal, a lot of problems from PTSD, sometimes from active service, sometimes from the family backgrounds they came in before. And he was doing amazing stuff. And he teamed up with a couple of ex-Royal Marines and an ex-SBS guy, Special Boat Services guy, and founded this organization. But originally, he was the only coach, and he was very particular about how, well, he called himself a coach, but really he was doing hypnotic and NLP-based change work. But he kept saying to me, James, come and work with us. Come and work with us. And I said, look, I've got too much on my plate. I haven't got the time to do it. And then he's saying, come and work with us. I said, look, I'm going around the world for a year. And this was 2015, 2016. I said, I can't work with you. So we went around the world for a year, me and my family. And when I got back, he's still going, James, come and work with us. Come and work with us. So I ended up going and doing this work. Now, that put me back in touch with, I suppose, being more of a change work guy, more than a create the life you want guy, being like these are people who have got into some dark places and they want help shifting things in positive directions. I still don't think of myself as a therapist. They may come in thinking I've got these mental health issues, but to me, we end up just co-creating a better life for them together. So it's kind of coaching, kind of change work, but that's why I'm not a hypnotherapist anymore. One last thing I'll say about that is when I switched to coaching, it's because I wanted to get paid more. That's the brutal truth of it. And being a hypnotherapist, a lot of the people that I was attracting, that customer base, at least in the town that I lived, they didn't have a lot of money. Now some people have said to me, James, that's terrible. You should be out there helping everybody, and you shouldn't just be. Someone said to me once, you just only want to work with the 1%, do you? Forget everyone else. I said, no, but I do want to have a good income for myself and my family. So at the moment, the stuff I do with Rock to Recovery is free at the point of delivery for the veterans, for the vets, the ex-services people. And now we also work with frontline services as well. So police, ambulance, this kind of thing. So it's free at the point of delivery for those people and their families. So people get a lot to work with me for free. The organization pays me a bit, but it's not a huge amount. It's a social enterprise, so it's not for profit. but I get paid by them. So the way I see it is I do sort of more expensive work, I suppose, for people who are what I call creators. They're looking to create maybe a business or an art project or whatever. I'm a little bit more expensive for them, and I'm free to the people who are desperate and needy, providing they're coming to the right category. So that's part of the reason that I made the shift.
Nice.
You mentioned Steve Chandler, but
yeah,
let's talk about some of your mentors and some of the people that you look up to that you got your guidance from.
Right. I mean, definitely Steve. Obviously, I already mentioned Steve. When it comes to mentors and people I've got guidance from, there are people that I've worked with directly, and then there are people that have been a huge influence, but I've never met and may even have been dead for a long time as well in certain situations. So if I go back in time and to the point where I got into hypnosis and neurolinguistics, first of all, I think I was maybe 30, maybe 20, 28, 29, 30. What would I have been? 28 or 29, I think. I'd been traveling with my girlfriend, and I got back to the UK, and I didn't know what had been going on in the UK for the last 8, 9 months. But there'd been a TV special that really took the UK by storm, and it was a guy called Darren Brown. I don't know if you know Darren Brown.
I do.
Yeah, so he was a TV kind of mentalist, and he was in the right place at the right time, I think. I mean, he's very skilled and very good at what he does, but he really sold what he was doing at the time as being pure psychology, mind control, and NLP was a big sort of bit of what was in the background. But I'd missed this TV special. I got back to the UK, and he was on a chat show Friday night with Jonathan Ross, and he just did some stuff on that, and I was just going, "What has that guy just done? That guy's got magic powers." And I said to myself, whatever he's doing, I'm going to learn it. I'm going to find out what he's doing, and I'm going to learn it. So I went on to the internet as it was back in 2001 or 2002 or whatever. No videos, nothing on there. It was just text, pretty much. Maybe it's the odd photograph that took 3 hours to download or something. But I went on to try and find out about this Darren Brown guy and what he did. And I found this page, which was a Darren Brown resource page. And it had a list of about 20 or 30 books. If you want to find out what Darren Brown's doing, read these books. So I picked 3 of the books. One of them was 13 Steps to Mentalism by Tony Corinda. One was called Magic and Showmanship by Henning Nelms. And one of them was Introducing NLP by John Seymour and Joseph O'Connor, or John O'Connor and Joseph, I don't know, one or the other, that way around. So I started reading this NLP book, and I got a certain way through it, and I just thought, I need this, and I need this right now. And I'd entered a phase of my life where I was really in over my head in a particular situation, and I felt like I was going to have to bail on this commitment that I'd made, and unless I could manage my mind somehow and change who I was and how I was. And this NLP stuff showed up promising me that I could, and I had nothing to lose. So I thought, all right, I'll give it a go. I'll take it at its word, and I'll start using this. I'll start following the instructions, the directions to build the me that can handle this situation that I thought was otherwise going to bury me. So NLP entered my life, became a huge influence. From that point on, I initially for the first 5 years, I was just self-studying and going out, trying stuff. And I got really interested in the hypnotic language side and the Ericksonian sort of conversational hypnosis side. That was a really big interest to me. And I started using that in the work that I was doing at the time, which was manual therapy. I also started to perform as a mentalist and started using it in that situation as well. And I was a martial arts teacher at the time. So I was using conversational hypnosis to assist me as a martial arts teacher. So I didn't get any input for about 5 years. I just learned from books and some online programs like Rex Sykes' NLP program. Are you guys like NLP guys or more just straight hypno guys?
Both.
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 Right.
Both, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Good. So maybe the reason I ask is because I wondered if you might know some of the names like Rex Sykes. He was quite a big trainer, I think, back in the day. Yeah, so I think like Rex Sykes was a big influence. And obviously I was looking at Richard Bandler at the time, mainly, and some John Grinder, and going like, what's this guy doing? And trying to kind of emulate some of what he was doing. So that was a big influence. I finally got NLP training after about 4 or 5 years of self-teaching. I finally paid for a practitioner training. So my original trainers were Melody and Joe Cheel here in the UK. They're a married couple. They were Society of NLP at the time. They've now gone off. They're no longer associated with the Society of NLP. Now, they were big influences on me because not only did they do NLP, they taught NLP and they made a living as NLP people. And I was at the time going, wow, you can make a living as an NLP practitioner? That's crazy. I was just doing this to help me out in other areas of my life. So I said to them, if I want to make a living doing this, how could I do that? And they said, well, why don't you become a coach? First of all, an NLP coach. And I laughed. I said, what are you talking about? My life's a mess. I can't coach people. I can't coach people on making their life better, And they said, well, you don't need to have, I remember Melody saying to me, she said, you don't need to have had brain surgery to be a brain surgeon. I was like, well, maybe. But they got me on the road to doing what I'm doing now. I started working with people. I worked at the time, I still was working in local government. And I put up on the intranet, the internal kind of internet, the intranet message board, like, is there anything you want to change in your life? Because I've learned this stuff, and I might be able to help you. So I started seeing clients from people that worked in the organization, the local government organization. For the first few months, I didn't charge anything, but I made a deal with myself that I would start charging on a certain date. So I did that. So Melody and Joe were big influences on me. After that, when I first started working with people, I was desperately confused. I had too much stuff because NLP's got so many techniques in it. And on the practitioner and master practitioner I learned all these techniques. I never knew what to use when. So I was completely confused. People would come in and I'd be bumbling my way through sessions. And sometimes it would help and sometimes it wouldn't, But I really felt lost and I really felt like I didn't understand what I was doing. I was just kind of throwing stuff at clients and hoping for the best. And that's a fine way to do things. There's the NLP presupposition. If what you're doing isn't working, do something different, anything different. So I was kind of working from that mindset. But underneath, I thought, I want to understand what I'm doing. I want to have a theory of change and how it works and all of this. And I think the first sort of set of influences that started to really impact me there was the Palo Alto group that Gregory Bateson had been involved in before he got in and started mentoring Bandler and Grinder. So like Paul Václavic, John Weekland, and their strategic therapy stuff. I don't know if you know that stuff at all.
No, go on, talk about our viewers.
So
too.
So this stuff like blew my mind. So I read a book called Change, Problem Formation, Problem Resolution. And a lot of because what these guys have been doing is they've been trying to work out what Erickson was doing way before Bandler and Grinder got anywhere near Erickson. So they had a whole picture of what Erickson was doing, and they turned it into their own therapeutic form, I suppose. But I started to go, right, I think I get what you're doing. And they had a lot, like there's two sides to Erickson. There's the hypnosis side, and then there's the trickster Erickson, the Erickson that would get people to do weird tasks and all of this kind of thing. So they studied more of the weird tasks and trickster Erickson side of things. But I started to get a good sense of how change might work from them. And that gave me a bit more, insight into how I might apply what. So that was the first big shift. But then I got into something called clean language. And that was clean language is kind of modeled by a couple of NLPers, James Lawley and Penny Tompkin, from a New Zealand hypnotist and change work practitioner or therapist called David Grove. He died in 2008, unfortunately, but he was quite an innovative guy, and he developed his own process, this really deep process for working with trauma that used a certain way of running feedback loops with people. Penny and James took the surface of it and changed what was underneath and made it much more solution focused and outcome focused. So I did a lot of training in this. I've done sort of like about 28 days worth of immersive training in this clean language stuff. And it set up a way of thinking about working creatively and interactively with people, right? Because clean language, the way they work, it's going to start out going, what would you like to have happen? And somebody will go, I just want to stop feeling stressed out all the time. And then you feed it back. You go, and you would like to stop feeling stressed out all the time. They go, yes, that's a pace, right? And you go, and when you would like to stop feeling stressed out all the time, and when you stop feeling stressed out all the time, it starts to be a subtle lead, then what happens? And they go, then I can just relax into my life more and enjoy things, right? And you go, and relax into your life and enjoy things, right? So it starts to get hypnotic. And you say, and when you're relaxing into your life and enjoying things, what kind of relaxing? And they go, oh, just feeling easier. And their state starts to shift. So you run these kind of co-creative loops with them. And you're always feeding back what they say and getting them to enlarge on it and deepen it. So it's a sort of co-creative hypnotic process. It takes them in. And it's great. And it bores the crap out of me doing it, right? Because you're just running. It's like you're an algorithm.
Yeah.
So I love it in a lot of ways, but I still love the Ericksonian stuff. I love I forgot to mention this word. I trained in direct hypnosis with Anthony and Freddie Jacquin many, many years ago. So they were all completely different, right? Look at me, close your eye, bang, sleep, deeper, deeper, deeper. Right? Do you know Freddie Jacquin at all?
Yeah.
So, you ever see the film Sexy Beast?
Yeah.
You know Don Logan, the gangster in it?
Yeah.
Goes, no, not now. Yes, you're going to do the job. All right. Freddie always reminds me of Don Logan. He's like the hypnosis. I love Freddie. And I think he's great, but he always reminds me of Don Logan because he looks a lot like Don Logan. He's not as aggressive as Don Logan. He's not an aggressive guy. He's a lovely guy. But Freddie, I always imagine him doing a Don Logan induction, which is like, you're going to close your eyes. You're going to go into trance right now, right? Shut up, close your eyes, go into trance. So, but like Freddie's not quite that direct, but Freddie's very direct, very on it. So I learned that from Freddie, and mostly from Freddie, but Anthony was a co-trainer on that as well. So I had that kind of direct hypnosis thing. I had this Erickson thing going on, NLP Erickson thing, and I had this clean language thing. And they all started to talk to each other, these three different approaches. So when I was out on the street hypnosis scene in London, and that was a great scene. There's a lot of interesting people with different approaches to hypnosis. We'd go and hang out in Covent Garden or around Leicester Square or sometimes on the South Bank. And we basically just go up to tourists and passers-by and this kind of thing. And we would just see what we could get happening with them, hypnosis-wise. Now, most people were doing rapid inductions to get this stuff happening. They're, pulling arms and going sleep deeper, deeper, deeper. But I had this Darren Brown thing in the background. I always liked the conversational stuff that Darren Brown did, like where he'd get people to forget what stop they were getting off on the tube, or they get them to pay out on the winning ticket, on a losing ticket at a dog track or something like that. I love that conversational stuff. So I thought, well, can I get these name amnesias? Can I get these hand sticks and this sort of thing? And that's mostly what I was doing rather than more of the skits thing. But can I get that happening just purely interactionally, no trance induction, this kind of thing? Because that's what I wanted to be able to do. And it also seemed to me that I didn't need the trance induction. Sometimes I seemed to get a good quality trance, but none of the phenomena would work. Sometimes I didn't have any kind of obvious trance at all, and the phenomena would work. So I was thinking this trance thing, I'm not sure about it, So I started to do this, but it was partly the feedback loops idea from Clean Language, but with a lot more kind of Ericksonian stuff in, but quite direct rather than indirect. So I had the blending of these three. And I wasn't ever planning, I didn't think it was a special thing. I wasn't planning to teach it. But there was a guy called Nick Davis, who's a friend of mine at the time. And I haven't seen Nick until last November. And I met Nick again after about 8 years. But I'd met Nick on a marketing course. Okay. In 2008, just to go back in time, I nearly went under business-wise. I'd left my work. I was doing change work. I was an NLP trainer. 2008 financial crisis hit. Nobody booked on any NLP trainings. People stopped booking in for hypnotherapy because they all thought they were going to go broke. And I thought I was going to go under. So I paid for this marketing course. And I went down to Regent's College in London. There's a very small number of people. This is a guy called James Lavers. And he had these marketing concepts. And he said to me, stop being an NLP trainer because that's not your pyramid. He said, you've got to build your own pyramid, right? Stop working in someone else's pyramid and build your own pyramid. That's what he said. So I didn't know what to do with this, but it was about a year later, Nick Davis, who'd been on that, he came down to London and saw me doing street hypnosis. He said, that's it. That's your thing. I said, what? He said, that thing you're doing there, the stuff, the hypnotic phenomena of no trance induction, just talking to people, that kind of thing. That's your thing. I'm like, really? Do you think, So I started to do something with that. And Anthony Jacquin also gave me a bit of an opportunity to write something up for one of his supplements for his Reality is Plastic book. He had a side supplement called Proper Mental for mentalists. And I put this thing in it. People love this thing. Suddenly overall, I was going to these like Blackpool Magic Convention. People were doing this thing that I'd written up. And people are going, you're the guy from the... So it picked up from there. And that's where Hypnosis Without Trance came from. So I did that blog back in sort of 2009. And then I started teaching the stuff in 2010. So that's kind of my pathway. So there's a number of influences on that. But since then, I've had a lot more influences and mentors that have really, I suppose, just taken me to different places when it comes to working with people to make change. Because I don't really do the street hypnosis stuff much anymore. Times change, things have moved on. I say much because every now and then it just kind of happens. I happen to be out and about, particularly if I bump into any of my old street hypnosis friends, which I did in November. Suddenly, time warp happens and we're doing the street hypnosis again. But I'm all about the change work now. It's about like helping people make changes and helping to create more freedom in their life as well. That's the major thing for me.
Nice. So I got another question for you. So let's go further back even. When you discover this, had this moment, this aha moment where it's like, I'm really going to be able to help people and change their lives for the better. How did that happen?
I'm going to just be really honest right now. I remember when I was running hypnosis trainings, I used to say to people, why do you want to be a hypnotist? And they go, I just really wanted to help people and all of this. I said, yeah, but why a hypnotist? Why not a counselor? Why not? So initially, I did not get into hypnosis or NLP or anything. I did not get into it to help other people. I got into it to help me, 100%. I wanted to change my life. I wanted to have a better life. And partly that was about changing how I was inside of myself, how I experienced myself. But also partly, or hugely, it was about changing how I showed up in the world, how I engaged with other people. And this is why I had this particular interest in influence. I had this idea that if I could be more influential with other human beings, obviously my life would go better, right? It just seemed like a no-brainer. Of course, like you're going to be able to get more of what you want out of life. So that was my initial desire. But the funny thing is the more I got skill in being able to influence people, the less I enjoyed doing it, the less comfortable I felt about doing it. Because I started to get these ethical questions come up, which had never occurred to me before. It's like, when is it all right to kind of get someone to do something, so to speak. You know, if I'm influencing them outside of their own personal sovereignty to do something I want them to do, I started to feel really uneasy with it. Just like an ethical thing came up. And that's kind of, for a while, I was like, I don't know if I actually want to do this anymore. I'm feeling really uncomfortable, particularly, you know, when I was getting into the mentalism stuff, because a lot of that was about proving that I could make you do things that you didn't want to do. And I just didn't feel good about it. And I didn't know I wasn't going to feel good about it until I started to not feel good about it. So so even when I started working with other people, initially I didn't go, oh, I'm going to work with other people because there's so much suffering out there and I want to heal the world or anything like that. I just was looking to have a better life. And I thought, well, if I can help people make changes in their lives, I'll probably get paid quite well. And I quite enjoy the work because then I can use my skills for influencing, but for that person's benefit, not my, you know, not because I'm trying to get them to do what I want or mind control them or anything like that, but in order to help them have a better life. And then I get to use my skills and they get a result and I get to get paid. And that seems like a win-win all round. But in my heart of hearts, I wasn't still there going, oh, you know, I didn't have that rescuer mentality. But what I've come to realize over time is I really, really value at a deep level freedom and personal sovereignty, right? You know, I also recognize that we're social creatures. We interact with other people, you know, so there's give and take. You know, the world is full of trade-offs and negotiations and all of this. So it's not about going out and getting what you want. You know, it's about living in the world with other people. But I really value in amongst that personal sovereignty. So I see myself as doing hypnosis for liberation rather than hypnosis for mind control. You know, so I kind of almost got into it for the mind control thing. In fact, you know, the original Darren Brown series on television was called Mind Control, and that appealed to me to start with. I just didn't like mind controlling people. I preferred helping people have more power in their lives, you know, liberate themselves, have more power to act in their own lives. So I've come to sort of like get a lot of satisfaction from the work because it's something that really aligns with what's in my heart and what matters to me, which is personal sovereignty. I do want to see people living good lives. I do want to see people in their power to create the lives that they love, you know, for themselves, for the people who are important to them. And I think that's, you know, I don't know, I like it. I enjoy doing it for that reason. But that was a slow process to get to that. It didn't happen immediately. I kind of grew into it, I suppose.
Nice. Scott, I've been hogging the whole thing. It's your turn. Scott's also a magician and a mentalist. He's been doing it for
Cool.
So there you go. Bring it,
Yeah.
Scott.
Yeah, so you've been called the people developer. How accurate is that?
I think it's a frame that I used for a bit because I think I've done a lot of hand wringing over the years, trying to work out, you know, what is it that I do? You know, what am I about? And at one point I thought, well, I'm about helping people who want to develop themselves. You know, now somebody can go, well, what does that mean? Develop yourself? Are you like an old piece of film and you dip it in the developer or whatever? But it's just like, you know, I think that change and growth are a natural part of being alive. You know, if you're not changing, well, you're not alive, are you? You're dead. Dead things don't change. Living things change. They move. They grow. So really, that's kind of a frame that I saw myself in for a while. It's just like people developer. I wanted to get away from this term life coach. That's why I started using the term people developer. I didn't like the term life coach. It seemed cheesy to me. It seemed, I was going to say a bit California, but Jason, you're in California, aren't you? So no offense.
So is there that hypnosis without trance 2.0?
Do you know what? It's a good question. I said I don't I've got a mixed feeling about the whole without trance thing these days. And I still stand by the belief that hypnosis isn't about a special state that you have to put somebody into so as they become somehow suggestible. I don't think it is. But I do believe that it is about helping people, on one level at least, shift their state, right? Even though I don't believe there is one state that you would call hypnosis or hypnotic trance. I believe you can shape people's states. You can shape the trances they're in. I believe that people are always in one kind of a trance or another, right? Happy trance, sad trance, driving trance, TV watching trance, work trance, you know, whatever. Everything we do in our life, we do in the trance that fits that moment, not in the totality of who we are. So I also, and maybe you'll relate to this, Scott, as a mentalist, one of the things I sort of got back in touch with is the power of mystery and magic, right? So, like, if you're doing like real good quality trance work, there's something mystical and magical about that. It's an unusual experience. Somebody steps into your room, you're going to work with them. They have an experience like no other. It's different from an everyday conversation. That's memorable. That's impactful. And the fact that something mysterious has happened, there's a hint of mystery, a hint at mysterious things, at richer, deeper forces or something. To me, that's a big part of opening up possibility. Because mystery, you see, the opposite of mystery is certainty. And the opposite of possibility is also certainty. Right? So certainty has two opposites in some ways, possibility and mystery. And I believe that it's certainty that keeps people stuck. Right? And it's possibility that frees people. So I think there's a real power in the mystery, in evoking something a little bit like it's got a little bit of a mystical feel to it. With the right kinds of clients, with the right kinds of people. I think it's a powerful thing and it's a wonderful thing and it's deeply moving for people. So in a sense, where I'm at hypnosis-wise at the moment, and I just, I said I'm not a hypnotherapist anymore. I'm toying with the idea. Just round the corner for me, there's a place called the Arthur Conan Doyle Center. And it's a center for kind of spiritualism and what's the stuff called? The Madame Blavatsky stuff. It's escaping me at the moment, but it's kind of quite
Past life regression stuff.
They do everything there. Any kind of like all sorts of esoteric stuff, tarot and all sorts of things.
Woo woo.
Yeah, it's woo woo. It's woo. It's woo woo. Yeah,
that's the right word.
Gloriously woo woo. Gloriously so. But I'm not averse to a little bit of woo woo. You see, I've always loved a bit of woo woo. There's a side of me which is very rationalistic, very let's look at the evidence. And there's a side of me that loves mystery and loves possibility and loves a bit of woo-woo. So I'm kind of thinking about actually doing 1 day a week hypnotherapy again there, or some kind of trance work there, just to be able to really go into it, really, evoke the magic and create almost mystical experiences for people. I know I don't need to do that to get change, and I'm good at getting change the way I do at the moment. But it kind of appeals to me. And also, like, here's the other thing that occurs to me about hypnosis and the whole hypnosis without trance thing. There's an old saying from Taoism, which is in order to profit, you must invest in loss. Right? That means if you don't let go of what you've got or the way you think things are, you can't move to something else. So part of one side of the double-edged sword of kind of being successful with the hypnosis without trance thing is I have to keep teaching the same thing because that's what people want to know. They go like, teach me that thing you're known for, right? Tell me once again how you believe hypnosis works. And now I'm at a point of going, well, that's one version of it. But what's everything else that's possible that goes beyond that? What's every other way of thinking about it? What possibilities do they open up? So in a sense, there isn't a hypnosis without trance 2.0, but I'm very much in a place of going, I want to like just be free to almost start with a beginner's mind again and go, well, what else is possible? What if I turn it all on its head? So I'm kind of like back into, in a sense, old school trance work, really deep, rich, wonderful trances and that kind of thing, which doesn't fit well with the brand, but what can you do? So yeah, that's where I'm going with that, I think.
So speaking of your brand, how are people going to get in touch with you? Because everyone's going to want to see you. So we want to, we're showcasing.
Okay. So I've got a bunch of websites. They're all junk. But I would probably, if people go to jamestripp.co.uk, I bought the .com address about 18 months ago for a lot of money from somebody who was holding it, but I still haven't switched my website across. So jamestripp.co.uk. I also have a podcast I call Agents of Everything, which I drop from time to time on Substack. And I have a YouTube channel, which I'm going to be doing a lot more stuff on again, which is just James Tripp on YouTube. So those are the three main places. Hypnosiswithouttrance.com is my website. And people can buy my book, Hypnosis Without Trance, on Amazon. All of those things. There you go. Ruthless self-promotion there.
That's right. We want that ruthless self-promotion.
Yeah.
And speaking of self-promotion, let's give those words of wisdom to our viewers out there. What words of wisdom can you just give us?
Words of wisdom. I'm just going to say the first thing that comes into mind. I don't know if it's relevant or not. I coach a lot of people that want to make differences, bigger differences in their life. They want to change their career. They want to build businesses. They want to do this kind of thing. Or they want to learn a whole new craft like hypnosis or something like that. And often people say, well, what's the best way to do it? And one thing I always share with people is there's actually only one success strategy in life that actually works. And it is this: get in the game, stay in the game, learn, grow, and adapt. You can apply that to anything in life. And if you apply that and you stay in the game, everybody I've ever met who's a success in anything, the one thing they have in common is they stayed in the game and they learned and they grew and they adapt. And everyone who I ever met that failed quit. So that's my piece of advice. Get in the game, stay in the game, whatever it is, and learn, grow, and adapt.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Now, I got a question that I've been wanting to ask you too.
Yeah.
So you're married. So
yeah,
how do you balance being all over the place and, doing what you do and putting all that energy into your business and your family life?
Well, I said we traveled around the world a few years back, 2015. And we basically pulled our kids out of school and home educated them. Now, I had most of my business was online at the time or was doing live events around the world anyway. So we traveled as a family and did that for a year. So I was on the road and I met interesting people who were in the kind of hypnosis world, NLP world, self-development world on the way, ran a few trainings, released a few online programs, did some coaching groups, traveled around that way. So kind of like the work actually creates an environment for our family to have quite a different kind of a life in a lot of ways. My wife works with me, so she's always helped me out because I'm a very disorganized person. She's a very organized person. I'm like chaotic and wildly creative, and she's more she is creative, but she's a linear, organized thinker. So she's sort of the yang to my yin in that respect. So that works kind of well together. Yeah, and like I suppose since COVID though, I used to do a lot of international travel workshops around the world, and the family would often come with me. But since COVID, I've done one live event and I'm all online basically. I go out and I see clients at the local university, but basically I'm at home. So it's a lot more stable in that respect. We got a dog as well, and the dog is ruining our ability to travel easily. Yeah, so it all kind of balances out. And I think at the moment going forward, interestingly, Lexi, my wife, has really got interested for the first time in a more creative way in the business side. So like we're probably going to be working together more closely in whatever comes next. So it sits quite well together in that way.
Nice. Scott, you have anything else you want to add?
Man, thank you so much for coming and taking time out of your busy schedule and coming hanging out with us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I thank you for inviting me on. I feel like I've talked too much and like,
Absolutely
Not at
not.
all.
Absolutely not. The pleasure is all ours, and we're just so glad to be traveling down your magical psyche highway there, James.
thank you. Thank you. I'll use that as a testimonial. James Tripp has a magical psyche highway.
That's it.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add, James?
Not really. I mean, no, I don't think so. I mean, unless there's anything else you want me to add, I'm pretty good where we're at.
Right on. Well, we really appreciate you, man. And it's been a pleasure. I mean, a real pleasure being able to get to know you better and understand, a little bit about your workings and, traveling down your highway.
Yeah,
So
thank
we
you.
certainly love that.
Do you guys do Hypno Thoughts?
Yes, we will be there this year, and we hope to see you there.
I won't be there this year,
Oh, bummer.
but I will be there next year.
Oh, right on. Nice.
Right.
I
So
looked at the schedule to see if you were there, and I was disappointed when your name wasn't in all the
yeah.
the
Do you know
attendees
what it
list.
is? This is. I feel really. I don't know what the word is, but like it seems like the worst reason in the world, but it seems like the biggest reason in the world for me. Honestly, our dog is just. I can't. I'm too soft. We got the dog during COVID. We all work from home. He's never been on his own. He's never been left.
Mm.
So I just put off making an arrangement to go this year because I couldn't. It was breaking my heart thinking of leaving the dog behind. That is the worst reason to sort of not get on with your life because of the dog. But like we've got a plan now. We're going to get him acclimatized to being looked after by other people and everything like that, so that we can get back out on the road. And next year, my daughter, she wants to do. There's this thing called Camp America, right? Where young people from Europe, they go into a pool and they go work as like summer camp counselors and things in the States. So my daughter, she's going to do Camp America next year. That means she'll have a work visa. She'll be able to, she really wants to, for some reason, volunteer to assist at Hypno Thoughts, but you have to have a work visa to do it if you're not a US citizen. So she will have the work visa from doing Camp America. She wants to assist at Hypno Thoughts. Go figure why. I'm like, why do you want to work free for Scott Simon? Why do you want to do that? But she does. That when we went like before the pandemic, we did Hypno Thoughts maybe 3 times, and the family came, and the girls have got really good memories of it. They loved it, and
Nice.
so for nostalgic reasons, they want to go back and do it. So we'll definitely be there next year, but I don't think it's going to come together for this year.
It sounds like your dog does quite a bit of change work with you.
Oh, the dog has done a huge amount. I mean, completely changed my life. I didn't even like dogs before I got the dog. My wife wanted to get a dog. So, and I absolutely, I love this dog, in a way that is probably just too overboard, but I just wasn't a dog person at all. But now, I'm not sure I'm a dog person necessarily now, but I love my dog. I know that much.
What's his name?
His name is Otto.
Otto.
Yeah.
Well, you're an Otto person.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm aware that that's not an easy name. It's got a particularly British pronunciation, as you guys would say, probably Otto, would you? Yeah.
Yeah, like
I know this. Yeah. Yeah. But I noticed this because like I'm in Edinburgh, and that means during the summer in Princes Street Gardens, everyone's American anyway. It's just so I meet so many like Americans, and he's a boxer as well. And I believe boxers are they're quite a popular brand in the States, I think. Brand, that's not the right word. Breed, that's the word I'm looking for.
Breed.
Yeah. Whereas they're a bit niche here in the UK, but a lot of Americans love boxers, so they come over and like give him a good rub on his head and that kind of thing. But they always have a problem pronouncing his name.
Hey, so this has been great, and I certainly enjoy it. Thanks again, James. let me get this to our audience. Hey, thanks guys for coming on the show. Thanks for watching us. We certainly enjoy having you here. If you love us, give us a thumbs up. If you think we're assholes, give us the thumbs down. We don't care. Just come back, share it with others, spread the word. And once again, it's been a pleasure. James, thank you for allowing us to travel down your magical psychic highway. It's been a real pleasure. Okay, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, what a trip. Thanks for taking that journey with us today. Please like us, share us, and enlighten us with your views of the topics we drove into today. We appreciate you and love reading your comments. Thanks again, and we hope to see you back on the bus next week. That's right.